You know, in the history of technology, some inventions completely changed the world. And others, well, others are a flash in the pan. They're here one minute and gone the next. Pretty much doomed from the start. Today, we're going to look at a perfect example of that. The beautiful but totally ill-fated AA Graphophone. Okay, let's just dive right in. This is it. This is the machine at the heart of our story. And from the outside, it looks like it should have been a success. But it was only sold for 2 years before it just vanished. We're going to figure out exactly why this piece of technology, which was born in the shadow of some really big new things, never quite got its moment in the sun.
And that's really the core of the AA story, isn't it? It's just a perfect case study of a product that, even though it had some genuinely good ideas and a pretty handsome design, was simply born at the absolute wrong time. It was a victim of its own dated technology, even as it was rolling right off the production line.
So, let's talk about what made this machine special when it first showed up on the market, back on July 15, 1901. Because for a very brief moment, it really did stand out from the crowd.
The whole design philosophy here was pretty unique for the time. See, a lot of other machines had all their mechanical guts just out on full display. But the AA's motor, it was tucked away, hidden inside this really attractive wooden cabinet. The idea was to make it look less like industrial equipment and more like a nice piece of furniture for your home.
This quote from the original catalog, this just shows you exactly how they were trying to position it. It's kind of marketing genius, right? Just swapping a small key for a crank was a deliberate choice to make the AA feel more substantial, more sophisticated than its cheaper little brothers.
And this was the magic number, $18. That was the original price back in 1901. And that number put it in a very specific and, as it turns out, very dangerous spot in the market.
You can see right here how the AA was meant to be that perfect mid-range option. It was a clear step up from the budget Eagle model, but it was still way cheaper than the high-end AT. It was supposed to hit that sweet spot for the customer who wanted a little something more but didn't want to break the bank.
And hey, it wasn't just about looks. The AA actually had a pretty significant tech improvement called the drop frame. It was this clever design that let the reproducer, that's the part that actually reads the cylinder, sit horizontally. This meant more weight could press down on the stylus, which gave you better tracking and a little more volume. It was an advance that would actually get used on later machines.
But here's the twist in the story. Even as this promising new cylinder machine, with its handsome cabinet and its cool drop frame, was being introduced, the entire world of recorded sound was about to get turned completely upside down.
Yep, by the middle of 1901, the AA's own parent company, Columbia, was already, quote, feverishly preparing its new line of disc graphophones. They saw the writing on the wall. Wax cylinders were on their way out, and the future of audio was the flat disc record.
So this meant the AA was launched into a market where its own creator was already looking right past it. Think about that for a second. Investing in a brand new cylinder machine when all the excitement, all the resources inside the company were shifting over to discs. The AA was basically an orphan product from day one.
So let's look at how this perfect storm of changing technology and shifting prices sealed the AA's fate. And it happened with incredible speed.
This timeline really shows you just how fast it all went down. In 1901, the AA comes out as this promising new mid-range model. But just 1 year later, the price of the superior AT model gets slashed to only $20. Suddenly, the AAs are really poor value. And by 1903, poof, it's gone from the catalog completely. Just a 2-year lifespan, from its big debut to its total disappearance.
And really, at the end of the day, once that price difference between the better AT model and the AA shrank to just $2, well, the decision was a no-brainer for customers. That handsome cabinet just couldn't justify the purchase anymore. The AA got pushed into what one historian calls phonographic limbo.
So get this number, roughly 13,000. That's the estimated total number of AA units they ever made. Now, to put that in perspective, other popular models were produced in the hundreds of thousands. This super low production number is exactly why the AA is such a rare and interesting find for collectors today.
So what is the legacy of this machine that came and went so quickly? Well, today, it's something of a charming ghost, a little whisper from a bygone era of technological change.
And this is the blunt reality of it. Because it was so quickly overshadowed by discs and undercut by its own sibling, the AA was essentially a dead end. It had no real influence on the design of future machines. It's a footnote, almost completely forgotten by the industry it was born into.
But hold on, the story doesn't quite end there. There's one last little puzzle that keeps collectors guessing. the machine was officially discontinued in 1903. So, why have several of them turned up with these award decals on their cabinets from the 1904 St. Louis World's Fair?
Well, the leading theory is that leftover stock was sold off by small third-party shops, or maybe even language schools that were still using cylinder-based learning systems. They might have just slapped that popular award decal on there to make the old stock seem a little more current. But that's all it is, a theory. No one has ever found definitive proof, leaving this as one last unsolved piece of the AA's quirky little history.
In the end, the AA Graphophone is what one expert calls a charming wraith. It's a beautiful, well-made machine that simply showed up to the party right as everyone else was leaving. And it's a powerful lesson from the past, right? In the relentless march of technology, a great idea isn't enough. Sometimes, timing is absolutely everything.